Uber passengers of Reddit that have given 1 out of 5 stars on a ride. What happened to make it so bad? The guy fell asleep at the wheel and rear-ended a car in front of us, then tried to flee, then left me at the side of the freeway. At Fruitvale in Oakland. In the end I got a $500 credit from Uber. He decided it was a good time to practice the flute. What? He refused to acknowledge my presence and kept asking my husband if he thought it was fine that he, the driver, wanted to take a second wife because he believed men should be happy. My husband was not about that at all and said that if he wanted a second wife, she deserved a second husband, and the driver flipped out and told us that men deserve more than women and that she should be fulfilled by taking care of his children. It was incredibly surreal, uncomfortable and demeaning. So yeah, a big complaint was filed with Lyft. Edit. He specifically said he did not believe in divorce and wanted multiple wives because it was normal in his religion. I'm also the person that ordered and paid for the ride, and he actually shushed me several times for chiming in. They drove over my foot as I was trying to get my luggage into the car. LOL. I was taking an Uber home from the airport. The ride was perfect and he even insisted on dropping my baggage to the front door. Awesome. He then asked if he could use the restroom really quick, and of course I obliged. He wasn't in there for more than 3 minutes, but when I went to wash my hands after, I found my bathroom destroyed. Poop was all over the toilet seat and just freaking everywhere. I really wish he had just taken more than a minute and shat like a normal human being, but the dude must have had a leaky butthole because there was poop on my walls too. A 1-star review was the bare minimum, I think. He hit a cyclist who was taking home a pizza slice, didn't help him up, didn't buy him a new pizza slice. He also ran a bunch of red lights and asked for 5 stars at the end. Didn't acknowledge me at all, had some song screaming just suck that dick and eat that ussy on loop, and was Facebooking while driving. My Uber was new to the area and attempted to drive down a railroad track. I asked what he was doing and he said, "Oh, sorry." He drove me around the freaking planet because he missed road signs and somehow got on the highway. I looked up and was horrified. I asked him why we got on the highway and he said because he couldn't turn the other way because there was too much traffic. The trip was 15 minutes but took 1 hour and 2 minutes. It was insane. They tried to charge me for the whole trip too. I've had one of those too. Fricking airport access highway 2, so not a ton of exits to turn around at. Just going from highway to highway for an hour on what should have been a 19-minute trip. Actually it shouldn't have been a trip at all, but the Silver Line decided to not exist that day. Didn't have a problem getting refunded though, thankfully. I was at the DC Zoo and needed to get the metro and had foolishly decided I didn't need my cane, so didn't want to walk back. The driver picked me up and tried to convince me to just get a ride to Union Station instead of the nearest red line. When I declined, he pulled over and cancelled the ride, reporting me as drunk and abusive. I was on a work trip in another city, riding into my first shift at around 5 AM. We were having a casual conversation and he asked whether I had a boyfriend. I said yes. As we were pulling into the empty parking lot, no one else was there yet, and I was trying to figure out which of the buildings I was supposed to be in. He asked if I would go get a coffee with him instead. I said no, and told him I thought it was the building straight ahead, but he turned the other way and started circling the parking lot. He said something about no one else being there yet, so I should just get coffee with him. And I said no again and asked him to just stop and let me out and I would find my way by foot. He let me out but then pulled into a parking spot and lingered there until sometime after I found my way in. Immediately when I got in the car, I was hit by an incense smell that was so strong it gave me an instant headache. She spent the whole ride trying to get me to join her essential oil downline in a well-known oil MLM. I declined politely and then firmly, I thought. We got to my destination and my head was pounding. She stopped and locked the doors. She told me that she wasn't going to let me out until I gave her my email address. I kind of chuckled and unlocked my door and she immediately locked it again. Then she pressed child lock so that when I tried to open the door it didn't budge. I was shocked and scared, and she repeated that I had to give her my email address and handed me a notepad and pen. I made one up and dashed out of there. Immediately reported her. A couple of weeks later she somehow found me on Facebook and sent a friend request. Needless to say I blocked her. Kept talking me non-stop and was asking me Excel questions and kept trying to show me music videos on his phone while driving and drove me to the wrong location and ended up charging me more. Immediately gave him a 1 star. She had 3 kids with her. One in the front, probably 14. A preteen in the back and a toddler, no older than 3 also in the back with no car seat. She was also driving erratically and reeked of weed. Stopped on the highway to read road signs during rush hour more than once. The driver didn't want to wait in traffic so he drove up onto the sidewalk. We all screamed at him to get back on the road as he continued to drive down the sidewalk while pedestrians ran out of the way. He told us that it wasn't a sidewalk, it was an Uber lane. It was a miracle he didn't actually run anyone over. They just never came. I waited 20 minutes and the car drove around in circles nowhere near my location. I eventually just cancelled, but when I did my score dropped. I went from a 5.00 to like a 4.9 or something, so she must have rated me. Then it gave me the option to rate her, so I gave her a 1 out of 5. I don't know if it was a glitch or what, but now I can never recover my perfect score. Told me gleefully that she brake checks people who tailgate her, then proceeded to do it multiple times. Took an Uber from my house to the airport for a work trip. Flight was at 10 AM. Picked me up at 7:30. Got a call from my boss on the way in. Driver screamed at me to hang up because he couldn't hear his podcast on his headphones. My boss, who heard the insane rant, told the entire team to switch to Lyft or taxis after that. Virtually every Uber driver is a Lyft driver. Tried to sleep with me. I had to call Uber and report them. Had a guy that made a creepy sexist comment to me once. Reported him. Uber refunded my trip and said they'd take it up with him or something like that. Still uncomfortable, considering the dude has my home address and my phone number. Uber driver was visibly drunk. Not blackout drunk, but it was obvious he was having a hard time staying in his lane. He kept veering over the yellow line, then would jerk the wheel the other way, nearly running us off the road a few times. He also had an open can of Bud Light in his cup holder. I had him drop me off a few blocks from my actual destination because I didn't want to die that night. Rated him 1 star, and reported him. Not sure if anything came from it. When I got into the car, he immediately yelled in a stern voice, "State your account ID. I take Uber almost daily, and I know drivers like to ask for your name." But I was so taken aback by the aggressive yelling. As soon as I got into the car, I was met with the most awful smell I've ever experienced in my whole life. It was like something died in his car. I had to hold my breath throughout the 20-minute ride. Then, he drove me to the wrong place. 2 times. By the 2nd time, I just decided to walk to my destination because I was so vexed by the smell. Before I got out, after sitting in the car in silence, he yelled, "Rate 5 stars." He wouldn't unlock the door until I agreed. Yep, 1 out of 5. Are you still in the car? No, but that's what the smell is, the decaying of the previous rider. She was simultaneously driving for Lyft and picked up another passenger completely out of our way. Then proceeded to brag about how she picked up some high school kids earlier and they had their destination set to the liquor store where she bought them liquor. Reminds of when I was on Oahu and one night I was drunk as it and needed to catch an Uber back to the Airbnb. So I summoned the Uber and I'm waiting on the street corner and it's like 4 AM and it's showing the car coming right for me, but all I see is a taxi. The taxi driver was moonlighting as an Uber driver in his taxi. I was so confused the next day and had to piece it all together. That's all for today's video. Hope you guys liked it. If you liked the video, subscribe. If you want to support the channel, the best thing you can do is simply watch the videos. But if you really want to see the channel thrive, subscribe, like, comment, add to favorites, add to playlist, and share with friends. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram at Reddit and Insta. Thank you guys so much, and I will see you with tomorrow's upload.